The original version of this video was uploaded to Jason Verney's YouTube channel, where it and many other videos, podcasts, snippets and films can be found. That channel can be found at youtube.com/Jason Verney.
Yeah, I do hear people's concerns about me being a white guy writing about Korean women, so to counter that as best as possible, I use Korean sources as much as possible. Yeah. In fact, although I do still, like I said, I've been doing this for 15 years, and I've been invited to lecture overseas about it. So, I do know a few things about these topics by now. And I've read some books, and Jason can see my 1,000 books.
It's pretty impressive.
And some of them don't have pictures.
Some of them just.
Yeah.
This is the Not So Korean podcast with Jay and Tim. I am Jason Verney. As you probably know, and as we always say, we usually record this live in UK's Koreatown itself. That's an area in and around New Malden. Yes, that's the largest Koreatown and Korean community in Europe. But I must add a quick statement from me, Jay, before passing you over to myself, on the fly and on the move somewhere else. Due to the nature of this episode, some segments, and in particular the sound quality, will differ slightly. Hopefully this won't affect your listening pleasure though. Enjoy! Okay. Welcome to the Not So Korean podcast. And I'm deliberately recording this outside so you get a taste of Vietnam. I'm in Saigon at the moment, Ho Chi Minh City. I'll elaborate in a second why I'm recording outside, but not only that, the Korean influence in Vietnam and where I've been staying in particular. But also this episode I'm going to announce a special guest who will be in the next episode. But you'll hear some more information about him in a bit. Perhaps a segment of the interview, but at this point, just some more information about that person. I'm hoping you're going to hear this okay. There's a couple of reasons for doing this on the fly, and I've done this, I've been doing these episodes at least, audio in a recording space in the accommodation I've been in, but also in on the fly, and I've called it on the fly, even though it's not necessarily on the fly, on the go. I might have been in a recording space and not, on the move. Let's say I'm actually literally on the move now. I'm probably going to be walking backwards and forwards in this alleyway, very close to the tourist area, the walking street, Bui Vien, and this is in Saigon, Ho Chi Minh City. So, and I have heard from one or two people before that you did like this kind of on-the-fly, on-the-move episode. So, that's what I wanted to do, with a bit of background. And if it gets too noisy, apologies, I might have to redo it. I'm also doing this because I'm reusing an app, or an application, a platform that I've used before. In fact, when myself and Tim started the podcast, way back when, I was using this platform then, and we was kind of, if you listen to those episodes, they're more rough and ready. Oh, there goes a rat. I'm saying there's a rat that just walked around in front of me. It's not describing that episode quality. Nothing wrong with rats. They've got I guess they've got the same what's the word, entitlement to live as anyone else or anything else, any other animal. Anyway, drifting off the subject, I'm in Saigon, Ho Chi Minh City, HCMC. I've been in Vietnam for 1 month. I've only been in this accommodation that I'm not right now standing in for one night. I've essentially my stuff's been there for almost 2 days, I suppose, because I arrived yesterday morning. I should say when I'm recording this, which is quite important for the Korean element of this, because that's, let's face it, that's what this episode is. It's a Korean podcast. Well, it's a not-so-Korean podcast. So, the reason that date is kind of is significant, or at least for on this trip and for my journey to Korea, in about 8 hours from now, I'll be boarding a plane to South Korea, to Seoul. And that is on the morning, because it's in the evening now, of the 24th, but I leave on the 25th, so in 8 hours from now, it will be the 25th. So tomorrow, the 25th, I will be in Vietnam, and then the same day, I'll be in Korea. Now, this is significant for various reasons. I'm also going to be in Seoul in Korea for my birthday. Also, it's Chuseok coming up. Now, that might cause a bit of a clash with my birthday, because often it's kind of become a bit of a tradition in quite a few of those 8 trips to Korea that I've made already. So this one being my 9th, I have celebrated my birthday. Not all of them, so obviously. So rat just ran in front of this woman and scared her a bit. And so it's a big thing for me. And for the podcast, I'm going to continue it. I promised I'm going to continue this episode. Myself, Tim, as you might have heard in episode 36, I brought you up to speed with various things. You might not hear in this, depending when I edit this together. Well, I'm going to edit this together in the next couple of days or so. But what I was going to say was the intro might be slightly different. You might not hear Tim and myself introducing it. I have felt, there have been moments when I've been doing these episodes, and a lot of the time, some of the time, I've used an intro from myself and Tim. And of course, then we've gone on to me, and it felt like, and not only that, the podcast also says, normally broadcasting from Koreatown, New Malden, UK. So, bear with me 1 second. Okay, this seems as good a time as any, in fact, a very good time to interrupt what I'm saying, what Jay is saying there. Basically, the two facts regarding the intro of the show, one being the fact that we mentioned we usually broadcast this from Koreatown, UK, New Malden, even though the fact that we say usually, I mean really it's not so much the case right now. It was originally New Malden. That said, we're not ruling out the chance or the discussions between myself and Tim, because we founded the show. So there could be a time when, in fact, we are broadcasting partly or completely from New Malden, Koreatown, but that's how the show originated, and that's what it came out of, basically. And the other aspect regarding having an intro from myself and Tim, sometimes it's been a recorded intro, then leading on to me. So it felt like two things. First of all, it felt like it could be very, very repetitive, the same intro. It could be that we're not actually present at the time it's recorded, but it also the fact that it's you hear myself and another person, Tim, and then we just go on to me. There has become a time perhaps to maybe temporarily, to take that out, but also to speed the show up a bit, because obviously there's a lot of intro at the start of these episodes. So, with that in mind, pass you back to Rambling Me. My message, actually this is relevant as well. Basically, I'm recording this podcast now before I record another podcast, or at least some radio or some audio thing I'm doing with Tida. Now, Tida is a friend of mine. She runs Pasm Productions. She was also in New Malden. She resides in that area, but she's half in Asia. She's half in that area. And we collaborate on film-related projects, a podcast. So we've been collaborating with regards to filmmaking stuff, but also a podcast that I also do, which is called the MBF Micro Budget Filmmakers Podcast. So it's not strictly about Korea, but there will be Korean guests or Korean-related guests at some point. We've been recording those. I think we're on episode 5 at the moment. I've been doing the interviews, and Tita's been, we've been sort of putting together the episode. She's been editing it together. I'm normally the one that does that for this podcast. So what I was going to say was, it's a significant date today because I leave tomorrow, and it's been almost a year since I was in Korea. But I will also say that, yes, it's Chuseok when I arrive, or a few days after I arrive, and that, as I mentioned or alluded to briefly, that is the tail end of Chuseok is going to clash with my birthday. So the tradition of meeting on my birthday, which I have done with certain friends, it might not happen this time. But I've already got people meeting me the Tuesday after I arrive, so like the 26th, the Thursday, one or two others in between, others that have confirmed, which is great, because the other thing is I'm only staying in Seoul until not long after my birthday, and then I'm going to Busan for about a few weeks, almost a month, maybe more than that, for the Busan International Film Festival. And incidentally, I've just posted talking about film festivals, I've just posted on my minimovie.com website an article regarding the London Korean Film Festival, which is coming up not too long from now, really, in the UK. I felt they've helped me out. They've not so much helped me out, but they've introduced me to so much Korean cinema in the last 13 years or 12 years, whatever. It's the least I could do is put an article up. I used to put them up by way of press release anyway, and it's pretty much, I'm trying to continue that tradition of putting a post up. So, I've been in a seaside town for about 3 weeks called Nha Trang. And the reason I'm mentioning this, so I was in Saigon, Ho Chi Minh City for about 10 days, and I moved to Nha Trang. I'd been there 13 years ago, but I couldn't remember much about it. It was a fleeting visit, as the whole Vietnam trip was. But there's a lot of Koreans there. Now, this is where the motorbikes start, and as you can hear. So, there's a lot of Koreans there. There's a lot of Russians and Koreans. Now, some reside there, but a lot of them are holiday makers. And to give you an example, or try to set the scene, obviously, well, you might know Vietnam is pretty strongly Buddhist. It's not as much as Thailand, but it is, they also have other religions, Christianity, Catholicism, I suppose. But there was a big church cathedral in Nha Trang, and lots of Koreans there. And the big Buddha which is around, and also a temple that I visited. Also, as I've mentioned before, there's Lotte Cinema around, which is a Korean company. There's Choco Pie. There's loads of Korean snacks in mini marts, convenience stores. After all, Korea is the biggest outside investor in Vietnam. But not only that, on the beach you've got this, what's it called? Is it K-House? I think it's called K-House. It's clearly a Korean, and it's got Hangul everywhere. Korean sort of restaurant, bar, lots of people there, lots of Koreans there. And Koreans do like their food when they're in other countries. They do like that, and I'm sure others do as well. Like if you're a Thai person, you go to England, you're going to want some bit of Thai food. I personally, when I go to another country, I don't really want the English food. There's times when I do. This morning I had something that's kind of English, or at least Western. So, right, let's fast forward a bit, because I'm in these alleyways in Saigon a few hours before my flight, and I need to do another call with somebody, or a call rather. This isn't a call. But the few things I want to mention, obviously the guest, and I mentioned going to Busan. Now, this person actually does reside in Busan. You might know of him. I've given you a couple of clues already. That it's a male. He lives in Korea, lives in Busan, and I'll get to that in 1 second. I'm just going to cover off these other topics, which are, arriving back in Korea. That's another thing I've been thinking about a lot. Not only that, because I can only stay there a maximum of 90 days without extending a visa. So I've been thinking, do I plan my trip back to
over to the next country now. There was actually something happening in Bangkok in the middle of November, and I debating whether I want to be there for that. But also, I could max it out, and I might mention this in the last episode, max out my stay, but it will be really cold, and I don't really want that. So we will see if I stay to the middle of November or the middle of December, or I don't know, the end of November. So I'm just ticking this off the list of things to mention. Chuseok, as I say, Chuseok is happening. That's also happening in Vietnam. You know, these Asian, Southeast and other Asian countries, they celebrate, you know, it's Harvest Festival, it's Mid-Autumn Festival, whatever you want to call it. And so, you know, obviously Korea's not unique in that, but it's a big thing in Korea. So that's a thing that I wanted to mention. I could go on for ages about Vietnam and the Korean influence, but I want to kind of, as I say, speed this along a bit. I mentioned Tim earlier briefly. He's been doing lots of stuff in the UK. He's also, and anyone who hasn't heard this before, Tim is the co-host of this show. That said, things might take a different direction in the future. It might be that we can only do so much together, in the fact that he comes on as a special guest and I have other guests, hosts or what have you. We're just, you know, I'm just trying to sort of manage that at the moment. I'm travelling all the time, editing my next film. I'm planning to be in Korea, by the way, by the end of March, hopefully, in time for the 10th year anniversary of the Sewol ferry. So, I suppose that really leads us on to the special guest and the interview. It's with a guy called James Turnbull. Now, I've known him for a while. I've met him a couple of times. Here we go. Sorry, bear with me. Met him a couple of times in Busan. Actually met him once with one of my Korean friends who lives in Busan. She was there, but also we met last year, and we went to an Indian restaurant that we went to the previous time. You know, I don't always want to eat Korean food in Korea, but Indian food, you know, is a nice place. I think it's called Busan Bollywood Busan. I can't remember the exact name, but it's a nice place. So James Turnbull, right? He is a freelance writer and independent scholar. He specialises in Korean feminism, sexuality, and pop culture. And his other stuff, you know, he went to the University of Auckland, and well, I will let him introduce himself in that episode. Some of you will be familiar. If you're in the kind of, let's say, Korean world of social media or Facebook and maybe LinkedIn or some other platform, you might see posts that are posted, excuse me, I've really been swallowing stuff in Saigon and Nha Trang, fumes-wise. I'll be looking forward to Korea for a breath of fresh air. In many ways it is. I mean, I'm looking forward to it in many ways. He has the grand narrative. Some people might say the grand narrative. But the grand narrative, he publishes articles on that. And if you see stuff come up on London Korean Links, or you might be following that. I know quite a few of my mutual online friends who maybe I don't know that well, they post stuff or like stuff from him, so it's clear that he's a well-known name in that field and field of various things. He's always reading books, maybe about feminism or subjects that touch on that. So I'm really excited to bring that episode to you, and that was the other reason for having maybe a different intro this time, or a slightly cut down intro, because I'm trying to keep this a shorter episode, believe it or not. Interesting enough, or at least I think it's interesting enough, around this time last year when I was going to Korea, I recorded it. I think I recorded the episode that I released in Korea. I recorded it in the airport. I think it was from Thailand, from Bangkok airport. So I do like to throw these episodes in every now and again. I do have the option of going back where my bags are right now, because I've checked out my accommodation. I could use the reception space there. As I say, I wanted to test this platform and also give you that feel of where we are. This is
Saigon of Vietnam. And as I mentioned before, there's parallels between what happened with Korea. There's divide in a way, but there's the war, the Korean War, the Vietnam War. Also Koreans that were affected by the Vietnam War, either that were involved or just have empathy or affiliation with Vietnam. It's an interesting sort of thing to, well, at least to think about while I'm here. There's a lot of stuff that springs to mind. And these are subjects, again, I'd like to talk about in a future episode. So I'll leave you with that, and I will talk to you, or you'll hear from myself, and it'll probably be, the next episode should be the interview with James Turnbull. So that's it, really. All right. 안녕히 계세요.
So that's the thing. So in addition to me getting information about Korea, which is only in Korean out there, also I can take all of these sources and come to my own conclusions. And I might be wrong about some things, but why not? Why can't I do that? And often, if you do actually read my blog, two important things about it. Half of the time, people accuse me of being this know-it-all white guy, and what shouldn't I know my place? Why on earth am I writing about Korean women? And again, in some cases, maybe in 1 out of 10 cases, no, not even that, they're just trolling. But in some cases, they've got legitimate points. But I'm doing my best to counter them. And my point here is that if you look at what I've written about or what I write about, usually I'm literally the only person on the entire planet writing about these things. If it wasn't for me, this information about Korea, or at least this perspective, which is based on 15 years of research and using Korean sources, which would not be out there at all.
Well, we hope you enjoyed that episode. So that's all from us. 안녕히 계세요.